Imagine a country with no oil, no gold, no vast forests, not even enough fresh water to support its own people. A country so small that you could drive across it in less than an hour. Now imagine that same country becoming one of the richest, safest, and most technologically advanced nations on Earth. Welcome to Singapore. Today, Singapore is known for its breathtaking skyline, one of the world's busiest ports, an award-winning airport, and an economy that attracts the biggest companies on the planet. But just a few decades ago, this place looked completely different. Many experts believed Singapore would never survive. When it became independent in 1965, it faced unemployment, poverty, housing shortages, ethnic tensions, and almost no natural resources. The future looked hopeless. Yet against all odds, Singapore achieved what many economists call an economic miracle. So how did this tiny island transform itself into a global powerhouse? Was it luck? Was it geography? Or was it the result of extraordinary leadership, long-term planning, and relentless determination? This is the untold story of how Singapore became rich. Chapter 1. The Island Before Success. Long before Singapore became a modern city, it was a small fishing village known as Tamaske. Because of its strategic location along major sea trade routes, merchants from China, India, and the Middle East frequently stopped here. For centuries, Singapore remained a relatively small trading settlement. Everything changed in 1828, when British statesman Sir Stamford Raffles established Singapore as a British trading post. Raffles immediately recognized the island's incredible location. Ships traveling between Europe, India, China, and Southeast Asia naturally passed through these waters. Instead of charging heavy taxes, Britain declared Singapore a free port. This decision attracted merchants from around the world. Within just a few decades, Singapore became one of Asia's busiest ports. People from China, India, Malaysia, and many other countries migrated to Singapore in search of work and opportunity. The island became a melting pot of cultures, languages, and religions. However, despite growing trade, most ordinary people remained poor. Many families lived in overcrowded wooden homes without clean water or proper sanitation. Disease spread easily. Jobs were unstable. Life was difficult for the majority of the population. Then came World War II. In 1942, Japan invaded Singapore. The British surrendered after only 1 week of fighting, shocking the entire world. The Japanese occupation lasted more than 3 years. Food became scarce. Thousands of people lost their lives. The war left deep scars on Singapore's economy and its people. When the war ended, Britain returned, but things would never be the same again. The people of Singapore had begun demanding independence, and soon history would change forever. On August 9, 1965, Singapore became an independent nation. But this was not a celebration that everyone welcomed. Singapore did not choose independence in the way many countries did. It was separated from Malaysia after political and racial tensions made the union impossible to maintain. The moment Singapore was forced to stand on its own, many people feared the worst. The country had no natural resources. Its domestic model was tiny. It depended heavily on imported food and water.
Americans live in foreign investors and future and international reserves leave some struggle to survive. For now,
Independence looked less like freedom and more like the beginning of a national crisis. The emotional press conference. One image from that period would become one of the most iconic moments in Singapore's history. During a televised press conference announcing Singapore's separation from Malaysia, Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew became emotional. As he explained the painful decision, tears filled his eyes. For Lee Kuan Yew, this was more than politics. He had dreamed of a united Malaysia. Now, that dream had ended. But despite his emotions, he made one promise to the people of Singapore. The country would not fail. That promise would shape every decision he made for the next 3 decades. Who was Lee Kuan Yew? Lee Kuan Yew was born in Singapore in 1923. He studied law at the University of Cambridge, where he graduated with outstanding academic results. After returning home, he entered politics with a clear vision. He believed that Singapore's greatest resource was not land, not oil, not minerals. It was its people. If the country invested in education, discipline, honesty, and hard work, Singapore could compete with nations much larger than itself. It was an ambitious idea, but first, the country had to solve problems that seemed impossible. The biggest challenges. Singapore faced crisis after crisis. The unemployment rate remained dangerously high. Thousands of young people could not find work. Many neighborhoods lacked proper housing. Ethnic tensions threatened social stability. Crime and corruption weakened public trust. To make matters worse, Singapore had almost no army capable of defending itself. The country was surrounded by uncertainty. Without economic growth, Singapore's future looked bleak. Lee Kuan Yew understood something many leaders ignored. Political independence meant very little without economic independence. If people could not find jobs, if businesses refused to invest, if corruption continued, the nation would collapse. Something had to change, and it had to happen quickly. Building a new Singapore. Instead of blaming circumstances, Lee Kuan Yew and his government focused on practical solutions. When Lee Kuan Yew looked at Singapore's biggest problems, he realized that corruption was one of the greatest obstacles to progress. In many countries, businesses had to pay bribes just to get basic government approvals. This discouraged investors and slowed economic growth. Singapore chose a different path. The government strengthened its anti-corruption agency and gave it the authority to investigate anyone, regardless of their position or influence. Public officials were expected to maintain high ethical standards. Government salaries were gradually increased to attract talented professionals and reduce the temptation